Balloons are often part of celebrations and memorials, but when they float away, they can cause some big problems. A lot of you at home remind us about this anytime that you see us show a balloon release on TV. We get emails all the time. Now we are seeing some messages about balloon releases being illegal in North Carolina. Now that's not true, not yet anyways. WRAL's Liz McLaughlin explains.
These might look festive, but they can turn into a Halloween nightmare for wildlife, waterways, even power crews. Raleigh's trash traps catch what washes off streets. Bottles, snack wrappers, and sometimes pieces of balloons.
I think there's always, some fragments of balloons that are there. Typically, if you're in a park or something where maybe people are having birthday parties, we see that a lot more frequently. Kaylee Cross says balloon releases often start with good intentions to honor loved ones, but end with plastic pollution. In one study, NC State researchers tagged floating trash in Raleigh that traveled more than 200 miles toward the coast. And in 2023, a juvenile whale found in Emerald Isle died with a foil balloon in its stomach. One of the biggest things to know is that they are maybe harmful. And so, when we release a balloon into the air, it has to go somewhere. And oftentimes wildlife mistake that as food. 10 states already restrict balloon releases. A North Carolina bill that would fine intentional releases $250 passed an initial vote in January, then stalled in the Senate Rules Committee.
The law is meant to establish a set of rules to help the public be safe, right? And to say that this is something that we have recognized is not a good practice, and we need to change behavior.
Advocates say there are plenty of other ways to celebrate, from bubbles to flowers to reusable displays, without sending pollution into the sky. Supporters compare these balloon release laws to littering laws. They can help set expectations even if they're rarely enforced. This law isn't expected to pass this session, but could be reintroduced next year. Liz McLaughlin, WRAL News.
All right, thank you to Liz. Now, look, a few North Carolina beach towns already do ban releases locally, so in those areas. And there are plenty of alternatives, as she was mentioning there, to these balloon releases. So fly a kite, blow some bubbles, light luminaries or candles, pretty much anything that you can clean up when you're done, clean up afterward. Now, you might say to this, Dan, this all kind of sounds obvious, all right? But if it's so obvious, why do we keep doing it? Why do people keep doing these balloon releases? And I can think of at least two reasons off the top of my head. For one, many times the people releasing the balloons are grieving. These are somber moments a lot of times, symbolic gestures of letting go. You could say that a community who lost maybe a child to gun violence or someone to suicide has a lot more on their mind than going green. But even if the environment was top of mind for some of those people, stopping balloon releases is kind of like just a little single tiny little drop in an ocean of plastic waste on our planet. And I mean that quite literally. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a thing. Perhaps you have heard of it. There is an eastern patch and a western patch out there in our ocean, and together they cover over 600,000 square miles of ocean. That is 12 times the size of our great state of North Carolina here, of floating garbage. Balloons are among those items in the patch, and they are horrible for wildlife, as we were saying. I don't want to minimize that, but balloons don't even crack the top 10 for most littered plastic items. You got cigarette filters and plastic film, plastic containers, plastic bags, plastic cups and water bottles. And you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, Dan, but I recycle these things. Well, think again, because most of the time you can't recycle those things. Here's the Wake County website. No plastic food containers, no plastic cups, no plastic bags. On Raleigh's website, it says, reminder, no plastic bags. They get stuck in our sorting machines. In fact, if you look at Greenpeace in 2021, of the 5 billion pounds of plastic waste in the U.S., less than 5% was recycled into something new. Less than 4.8%. They rounded up to make it 5. Looks better, I guess. Just something to consider next time that you comment on a balloon release or have an opinion on that. They are bad, but there is so much more to this story. Tell you what, let's open the floor to some comments if you would like. What do you think? about balloon releases? Did we miss something in this report? Send me an email, dan@wral.com. Tell me what's on your mind, and we will go in depth.